Rick, what's your immediate reaction to that question? Are Spurs bigger than Celtic? And let's not just make it about Celtic, Rangers as well, because they're both the same. Let's bring them in as well.
Do you know what? It is a difficult question to answer, because if you're talking trophies and what they've done with their history books,
They won a European Cup at 67.
what exactly? And they've just won everything in Scotland over and over and over again. So trophy-wise, you would say Celtic are the bigger club. When Celtic go abroad, they take fucking thousands upon thousands of fans, way more than Tottenham. So does that make them the bigger club, more followed club? But then you've got Rangers and Celtic, who are the two main teams in Scotland, whereas in England, even London alone, you've got like 4 or 5 clubs, the big clubs. And then outside of that, you've got the 2 Manchester clubs, Liverpool, whenever, it goes on and on. So
what's your answer, Rick?
I would probably, if you're taking everything into account, fucking hell, it's hard, because then like operational wise, money wise, business wise, stadium wise, how much revenue we get, we're the bigger club. And exactly this, we've gone into Celtic and said, here's your money, take that, we'll take your main man, drink your milk, fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things you have to take into consideration. Celtic fans and Rangers fans will look at how many titles we've won. And we might say, well, it's the Scottish Championship, it's a Premiership. It doesn't count because you two have the biggest advantages. But regardless, it's unreal the amount of, titles they've won. They've won a European Cup and we've never won one. So you could argue that. But it's all about history. And really, what a big club is now, and I'm not saying this is a positive thing, it isn't, because a club should be really, the size of a club should go down to how successful they've been in the competitions they play in. And Celtic in Europe, in a competition, if you compare to our European pedigree, Celtic have done more in Europe than Tottenham have. But the reality is, in this modern age, is that it's nothing to do with what happened in 1967 or going forwards. Right now, there isn't a manager on earth that would turn down Tottenham if they were in the Rangers or the Celtic job. That's not the fault of Celtic and Rangers, I guess. It's just the fault of, I don't know whose fault it is, but the branding and the popularity of what the Premier League has become has made it a draw that almost any manager on earth can't turn down. Even the very best players in the world now are coming to England before they go to Real Madrid or Barcelona. But the fact is, all we can say is that we came knocking and Postecoglou answered. The fact is, Aston Villa came knocking and Steven Gerrard answered. So by that reasoning, Villa are bigger than Rangers. In fact, Villa have done a lot more in Europe. No, listen.
Yeah, no, they have.
Villa have done a lot more in Europe than Rangers have ever done. So if we're arguing that Celtic are bigger than Spurs because of the winning the Champions League, then Rangers are smaller than Aston Villa because Aston Villa have won the European Cup. So what is the reality? The reality is that, without sounding pompous, and this is nothing to do with me. Like, if there are any Celtic fans watching this, if this is on YouTube, or any Celtic fans listening to this, I'm not saying that Spurs are bigger than Celtic as a football club, but as a global fan base, in terms of the amount of money and revenue coming in and the type of manager and player that you can attract. And of course, it goes without saying. Let us know in the comments below if you're watching this. Yeah. Let us know, Celtic fans, why are Celtic bigger than Tottenham?
Yeah, what I'd like to see Rangers and Celtic come into the Premier League.
Isn't that like a slight on Scottish football, though?
Well,
how well would they do, Rick?
Probably they'd go down to the Championship, I reckon.
Yeah,
straight down there. They slide straight down.
If they stayed up, they would become a major force because of their fan base.
I just think with the amount of money that comes into the Premier League, I just think it would make it a much more interesting competition, interesting fixtures, especially for them as well. I don't know, like up in the Scottish League, that they are almost guaranteed like Champions League and European football. So it's their chance to do something. And if they did come to the Premier League, what would their chances be like? It would be great. Can you imagine like Tottenham v Celtic or Rangers?
Well, so you're
as
saying
a regular fixture?
bring Celtic and Rangers down, destroy Scottish football, essentially destroy it because no football.
No, let the other teams have a go. It's like fucking Celtic and Rangers winning the league since what, the 80s or whatever. I don't think another club's won the league. Just let someone else have a go.
I always
let
thought
have a go.
I thought it would have been a good idea to and this is completely out there, but I always come up with these out there ideas that, the Scottish leagues could join up with the Welsh league and maybe even the Northern Irish league and become like a super kind of league that kind of competes against each other and try and grow the brand that way. While you guys were chatting, I was just looking up a couple of things. So overseas supporters clubs, Tottenham have got 446, Celtic have got 160. That's
bigger.
Huge. That's a huge
That's
difference.
much bigger. That's like 4 times the size. What else you got, Cal?
So what you guys were talking about with the league, right? The Sky deal for the Premier League, from what I quickly looked up, is 1.5 billion a season for the Premier League. For the Scottish League, it's 150 million over 4 years.
Is that right? Are you sure that's right?
I quick Google. Someone wants to correct me. That's fine. But that's what I just quickly Googled. Over 4 year period, 150 million. That might be the overseas money. No, that's with Sky Sports. Until 2029. I'm looking at it right now. Until 2029, they get 150 million. It's a dog meat league. And so what the...
Good luck, Good luck.
Whatever. And that's what the draw was, wasn't it, for Ange, was that it wasn't so... It was Spurs, because even though Celtic have won the Champions League 50 fucking years ago, when did they last get out of a group stage of a Champions League group? When they're the fodder team, aren't they, in the group? Whereas Tottenham have been to a final, quarterfinals, they get out of the group every time. Not in the Champions League this year. Fair play, Celtic are. But they've not got out of the group in a long time. They can't compete on a European-wide scale, whereas Tottenham actually have the potential, because of all this money that I was just talking about, to compete. And I actually think the way we view what a bigger club is different now to it was perhaps when we first started watching football. When we first started watching football, it was about what you'd won and how many supporters you had, right? Now it's about all these other things I've just spoken about, supporters clubs and all this other stuff.
Global fan base.
Yeah, global fan base and all of that. Like, you look at it, Tottenham are a bigger club than Chelsea. Like, Chelsea fans would tell me that, or even Manchester City. But Chelsea now, because they've had all that money pumped in, they're one of the top earners, in world football. So, but are they a bigger club in terms of, domestic fan base? Probably not. But the football landscape's changed now.
The fact is, we have no idea what a bigger club means anymore. It used to be a significant thing, something you could actually quantify. Right now, you can't. And any club in the top 10 comes for a manager for Rangers and Celtic, then they're going. Villa were in the bottom half when Gerrard took over, and he left Rangers for Aston Villa. Are Aston Villa a bigger club than Rangers? Probably comparable. Are Spurs bigger than Celtic? I mean, to answer it very, bluntly, yes, they are. We have the European pedigree. We've got the fan base, and we're one of the most famous clubs in the world. If you ask anybody outside of England to list 10 of the biggest clubs in the world, no one's saying Celtic. It just is. It's just the way it is. But if you're Scottish and you get offended by that, I don't mean offence. It's just the way football is. And look, if you've got if you've got an axe to grind, go and fucking grind it with Aston Villa, because they've fucking been relegated about 5 or 6 times in the last 15 years. Spurs are still in amongst it. We've been to a Champions League final. It's nothing to do with Spurs. Go and dig out Villa fans. Nice one, Glasgow Spurs. I don't know how do you feel about it? Glasgow Spurs. Right, who do you support? Who do you think is bigger? Let us know on Twitter or in the YouTube comments. Who is bigger, Tottenham or Celtic or Rangers? I think we're bigger than both of you combined rather. But
we could buy every club in the SPL.
That's not the rich, being rich because the Premier League has expanded in the way it has. That doesn't make us bigger. But I guess being rich does help, doesn't it? Anyway, let's move on to Postecoglou. Last time I recorded on the Fighting Cock, he wasn't our manager, and he's been made our manager. And I've fallen in love with him already. I like the way he talks. It's really kind of just has Poch vibes, but his own sort of slant on it. It's we're coming off of 3 years of really feeling very little about our football club. We had 6-month period under Conte where it was, or actually less than that, 3-month period where it actually we were looking forward and going, hold on, something's happened here at Spurs.